Welcome to I've Always Wanted to Watch That, a spin-off podcast from the Average Joe's Movie Club cast. I'm Justin. In this episode, I'll be chatting with my longtime Letterboxd and AJMCC pal Max about a bunch of movies, including Jean-Luc Godard's Pierrot le Fou. We'll put my French to the test today. Welcome, Max. I'm so glad we're finally getting to talk without the crutch of a keyboard between us.
Yes, thank you for having me on.
So I know you're pretty selective about who you follow on Letterboxd. So what put me on your radar and has had you following me all this time?
I like the reviews, and I only follow about 18 people because I want to really read some of these reviews. And if I have
Mm-hmm.
50 people on my list, I can't read them all.
Sure.
And I read one or two reviews. I liked them, so I continued reading them, and they got better and better, more interesting. And I said, "Well, this is worth it." So let's see where this goes. And so far, it's been what 3 years now. I think that I've been
It seems
following.
like it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
so
always. It's always great to see your face pop up under liking my reviews. I wish I could like more of your reviews, but you're pretty selective about what you write about, huh?
yeah, I really need to be in the mood, and I have this
Mm-hmm.
feeling that I have to say something useful or basically that. I'm not really a writer. I'm
Ah,
more of a
gotcha.
watcher.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. I know we opened up a really interesting conversation one time with at least one other person, I think, around a taxi driver. We were really getting into
The
some of
Western
the. Hmm.
Western analyze. Yeah, I still think it's a Western, a modern day Western,
Hmm. I can definitely see
and
that.
where Clint Eastwood rode a horse, Robert De Niro drives a car.
Yeah, taxi.
And granted, Jodie Foster was 12 years old, and then saw Clint Eastwood do that, get interested in a 12-year-old, luckily.
Hmm.
But there's a lot of, how shall I say it, overlap between a modern day movie like Taxi Driver and
Hmm.
the westerns of 100 years ago.
Yeah.
You have the good guy, the bad guy, a grimy desert, a grimy city,
Hmm.
desperation, people really wondering where they are going with their lives.
Yeah, a lot
It
of
was an
good
interesting
parallels
discussion. We
there.
should really continue that discussion. It was fun.
All right, tell us a little bit about yourself. You're, I guess, from Europe somewhere, right?
Yeah, the Netherlands. So
Okay.
my apologies for the accent.
Oh, no problem.
I love film. I've always been watching film. It's mostly the fault of my mother. She took me to cinemas when I was 3 years old. And
Okay.
those were kids' movies and gangster movies. So I grew up on a steady diet in the 70s, 80s on gangster films.
Okay.
Um, don't have a criminal record though, so it worked out well.
That's good.
I basically will watch anything. I will give it a try. If I like
Hmm.
it, I will continue watching it. If I don't like it, I will watch about half of it, unless it's really awful, like Project X. I just stop
Okay.
watching it after about 10 minutes. But if it's interesting, I'll give it a try.
Okay.
Um, I prefer drama.
Okay.
Comedies, I like comedy, but I have a very difficult relationship with humor. The things I like aren't always mainstream.
Okay.
Have you seen The Cremator? It's a
I
movie
haven't
from
seen that
the
one yet. I've heard of it.
60s. It's a very good movie. It's very dark.
Where's it from? Is that an Asian film or?
It's, I believe, Czechoslovakian
Oh,
or
it's a Czech.
Hungary.
Okay. Okay.
I've seen it a long time ago, but it's a very good movie. It's out on Blu-ray. I think a Criterion release is coming. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, I think I've heard that floating around. I'll have to put that up
Yeah,
on my
it's really,
watch list.
you should really watch it.
Okay.
I still hope that
Now,
Criterion comes to Europe because Americans have an advantage over us Europeans on that area.
oh
The
yeah.
Criterion
Well.
channel.
Mm-hmm.
I tried a
Absolutely.
VPN, but they don't accept European credit cards.
Oh no. Yeah, that's no good.
So
It's
I have to live without Criterion. There are worse things, but not many.
yeah, it's a bummer not to be able to be not able to watch certain things. Yeah, we're pretty fortunate here over in the U.S. Lots of stuff's available.
Yeah.
But before we get into this artsy French flick, let's hear more about your taste in movies in our 25-question movie blitz. Okay. What is something you would say that instantly gets you invested in a film?
Good opening scene. And the best opening scene I've ever seen was in Inglourious Basterds.
Good pick.
Hans Lada is basically a monologue, and when he starts talking, it just grips you. There's already a little thing ahead of the film, but when he just starts talking, it just sucks you right in, and that's really important. It isn't so much a hook; it just has to be a good opening. It has to be interesting. It doesn't even have to be dialogue. I've seen a movie about 30 years ago, and it was just the first 10 minutes was no speech, just image, and it was beautifully made, and it just sucked you right in. So that's the most important thing for me. Good opening.
Have you ever seen a Shock Corridor?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. It's a Samuel Fuller film. That's kind of what brought it to. That's one of my favorite openings. It just kind of takes you out of nowhere, and it's just like this instance of, I think, some kind of domestic fight going on just right off the top, and it's like, whoa, didn't see that coming. But we'll be talking more about Samuel Fuller coming up. So.
No, he was in the movie, so.
All right. What would you say your first movie theater experience that you remember was?
That's a long time ago. I'm almost 50.
Okay.
Children's film.
Okay.
Later found out it was based on a book by Erich Kästner. Het Vliegende Kinderzimmer. Literally translated means the flying classroom.
Oh, okay. That sounds
and
charming.
it was a kids movie in the cinema. My mom took me. I was about 4.5 years old, and it was just fun. I think it's floating around on YouTube.
Okay. I'll have to check that one out as well.
Subtitles. Yeah, it's flying.
To make a running list.
Oh, I got. If you let me, I'll give you a list so long. You won't have enough years in your life to watch them all.
Yes, I was. I think I had. Somehow we got on the topic of German war films, and yeah, you really unleashed with a great list. I still need to dive into more of those. So little time, so many movies.
Yeah, I know.
If you could see one more film from an actor, actress, or director that's now has passed away, who would that be, and what kind of film would you want to see him in?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. That's a really good question. I'd love to see another movie by Paul and Pretzberger.
Okay.
You know, they did Peeping Tom. Something like that again.
Okay.
It broke his career, sadly. It was probably the best movie he's ever made, and completely broke his career, Michael Powell.
Which one did you say?
Peeping Tom.
Oh, Peeping Tom. Gotcha. Yeah, that's a good one.
It's
crazy
the best
that came
movie
out
ever
the same
made.
year as Psycho. Yeah,
Yeah,
I was impressed when I saw
it. It's a better movie. And it completely broke his career. It made Alfred Hitchcock's career Psycho, and Peeping Tom broke his career. It was the first movie he did without Pretzberger. Completely broke his career. It's really no explanation why.
All right.
I'd love to see a movie like that by those two together. Because he did it alone, and maybe with Pretzberger it would be more viewer friendly.
Yeah, because most of what
It's
you
not
see
the
from them
easiest
is
film.
very kind of as a classic family film kind of feel to most of their stuff.
Yeah.
So, all right. Do you have any movie pet peeves?
That's a. I really watch everything. So I don't like. I call it MTV montage. So instead of a scene that lasts 30 seconds or a minute, it becomes 10 seconds, 10 seconds, 10 seconds. Some movies just have it, and it doesn't even have to be a cheap film. Some really expensive films have this speedy montage, and it just doesn't work for me.
When you say MTV montage, does it particularly have to have like kind of some upbeat music to it, or just Just kind of montage in
No, it's
general.
just really the montage. The
Okay.
music is not really the problem. It's really the jump from A to B to C to A to B to C to B to A. You know what
Okay.
I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't like it. It really started with MTV, the late 80s, early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And it used to be you had long scenes and they become shorter and shorter and shorter. And it doesn't work for me. That's the really only thing that I really don't like.
Um,
Generally, I'm pretty forgiving for film mistakes, and I find that's really a mistake.
how about a good old Rocky montage? Do you feel the same way about that?
Mm, yeah,
Okay.
I'm willing to go with that.
Cool. Sticking to it. Sticking to it. Can you think of a movie that made you laugh, like just the most memorable, hilarious moment in a movie you can think
Really
of?
more. Wow. Most of the producers, the
Okay.
musical when it starts, and then particularly the audience, the reaction to all of it,
Mm-hmm.
utter
Okay.
shock. It's just beautifully done.
I've shamefully only seen the remake. I need to see that original with
Oh, you need to
Mel
see the
Brooks.
original. The remake doesn't even think it gets close. It's
That's what I've heard. Okay.
it's just beautiful. Also, um, let me see, there's another film that's also by Mel Brooks,
Mm-hmm.
Blazing Saddles. When the
Oh,
sheriff
sure.
comes to town and everybody's in shock. It's a black sheriff.
Yeah.
And he comes there, hello, I'm your sheriff. And they are in absolute shock.
Mm-hmm. What's the sexiest film that comes to mind?
Sexist film.
I'll tell you, there's a lot of sexy moments in this one, but we'll get there.
Yeah. Um, this is going to sound strange because it's not really sexy.
Okay.
It's in Breathless. They're lying
Oh,
in
okay.
bed.
Mm-hmm.
He's lying in bed. He's smoking,
Yeah.
and she's walking around, and it's just sexy. It's real simple. It's not actually. There's no you see no nudity or anything. It's all really very polite and there's nothing shocking, but it's still
Mm-hmm.
sexy. I have no idea why.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I was definitely getting some vibes of that kind of
Yes.
sensuality in this movie.
There's also
Uh,
good interaction between both actors.
mm-hmm. Oh
I
yeah,
thought
that's the
the
scene that goes
interaction
on and
between
on.
yeah, the interaction between both of them is actually better, I feel, than between Belmondo and Anna Karina in Pierrot. I thought that there was an interaction, but when she says Pierrot, which means Pierrot le Fou means sad clown or silly sad clown,
Yeah.
I don't think it really was acting.
Hmm.
It was. I don't think she really respected him as an actor. Could be me. Maybe that was just my interpretation, but I don't think that was really that much respect for each other on set. And in Breathless, you see two actors who really know how to act and also have respect for each other's talent.
Cool. All right. Let's see here. Your favorite camera work in a film?
Favorite camera work? Oh, I always forget his name, but it was the Heaven's Gate.
Oh, Malik.
O'Malley, yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. Heaven's Gate. That would be uh
No, that's O'Malley.
oh
I think it's O'Malley.
Heaven. Let's see here.
Or am I wrong here? I think it was O'Malley.
Heaven.
Heaven's Gate, the Western. Legendary flop, very undeserving.
Okay. Yeah, that
Those
was
shots are just brilliant.
okay. The Camino, the Chimino film.
Yeah.
Let me see the cinematographer on that. Yeah, that's great cinematography in that one.
It's
Um,
very.
Vilmos Zsigmondy,
Are you sure?
because
Okay, I thought somebody else.
I'm trying to think of what the Malik film is, because I thought you were talking about the Heavens. Let me look over my shelf real quick. So embarrassed. Let's see here.
Um, like 19th century painting, landscapes, the big ones.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of that. It's basically using a camera instead of a brush. This is beautifully shot. I have 3 versions of it on Blu-ray. I've watched all 3 versions in a row once last Christmas. I don't think I logged it in Letterboxd.
In a
But
row, huh?
all
Because
3 of them.
wow. Yeah, I think I've only seen the longest cut, and I think my only problem with Cimino is I don't think he's the greatest writer, but I think his visuals are amazing. Um, so I've gotten quite a few arguments on Letterboxd about not really enjoying the Deer Hunter as much as everybody, but I do have to
It
marvel at
looks
the look of the
great.
movies. Hmm.
I agree with the story. The story of the Deer Hunter it's a basic story, nothing special.
Hmm.
You could put it in a gangster surroundings instead of a war, and you would get the same result. But the way it's shot is just beautiful.
Hmm.
He didn't do many movies. I think he did about 5 or 6 of them before
Yeah,
he died.
yeah,
He did very
yeah.
few.
Things really went. Hmm.
And I saw Heaven's Gate. The second version I saw with the sound off. So I watched the whole movie without sound, just picture.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and it just looks beautiful. It's just perfect. That's how you film a film.
Yeah, I need to get back to that one. The first time I saw it was on like Amazon, and it was still like kind of the sepia tone version. So I believe the Blu-ray I have over there has the better color in it. So I'm looking forward to getting
Yeah, it
back to
also
that one.
depends on the publisher. I think Criterion actually
Hmm.
got the. I think I got mine from Criterion. I'm not sure, but they get the coloring often wrong in issues in the transfers, and I have one where the coloring is actually just how it's supposed to be, and sometimes a bit unsettling.
Hmm.
It's,
How so?
first time I watched it, I thought the transfer had failed,
Oh, okay.
slightly washed out. And then later, and because normally with Private Ryan, you see these washed out colors.
Hmm.
And in this one, you have the two, but not all of the time. So I thought the transfer had failed in certain parts.
Oh, inconsistent. Okay.
Yeah, so I looked it up on online, and turns out this is how it's supposed to be. So it's just beautiful. It's not my favorite film. I don't think I have a favorite film, but this is really just perfectly shot. There's
Okay.
very few films who look like that. Dr. Zhivago comes in close
Yeah.
in epic land scenes.
Yeah. David Lean movies between Chivago and Lawrence of Arabia.
Mm.
Great on site photography.
Mm.
Okay. Favorite black and white movie?
Favorite, but oh wow, that's a question.
Yeah, it's quite a few of them.
Yes, I've seen a few of them that I really like. So it's really between Nosferatu, 1922 by Murnau,
Okay.
and also Murnau film. Well, no, Metropolis.
Did you
I
like
think,
the extended version of Metropolis?
yeah, the extended version. So including the missing scenes in the bar, the whole dancing that used to be missing, and they found it back.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched it twice now, and it's just perfect. Yeah, maybe I like Nosferatu a bit more than Metropolis. Because it's still Metropolis is a good sci-fi movie, but it's been overtaken by better sci-fi movies.
I need to see more
Yeah.
Fritz Lang. I was really impressed with that M when I
Oh
first saw
yes.
that. So,
Um, I think it was the first sound film in Germany.
oh,
That one or the Blue Angel, or maybe both of them. I think it was M was the first sound film in Germany.
that's a perfect
It's
transition to what's your favorite German language film?
Nosferatu.
Okay. What are your
Have you
feelings
seen
on
ma-
like?
Have you seen
Go
many
ahead.
German films?
Probably not near enough. I do need to get back into that. What's the BDR
Uh,
trilogy?
Fassbinder's trilogy.
I've only seen the first one of those. Need to finish that up.
Marriage of Maria Brown.
And really enjoyed going through Berlin Alexanderplatz. Still need to see the other versions of that, but that was quite the
There's
experience.
a new version. There are three versions of that. There's a 1931 film with Heinz George, which at the time was considered one of the greatest living German actors. Then is the Fassbinder version, and then there is a very recent, about 2 years ago, there was a interpretation of the book with an immigrant who plays an immigrant version of Franz Biberkopf. But I have heard mixed reviews. Critics loved it. Friends of mine saw the movie, hated it. So it's a difficult one. Because it's really just, there's a different approach. Instead of a convicted criminal, we have a immigrant who's looking for a better life. And I feel that doesn't really work with the story.
Whenever the Fassbinder miniseries was out, did you catch any of it at the time?
I had the DVD version. Before that, I had the VHS version, a very badly copied VHS version. And when I wasn't Dutch television when I was a little kid, and my parents watched it, and I was about 6, I believe.
Okay.
We had stairs, and I could sit on the stairs, and I could watch in the living room, and that's how I watched my first movies.
Yep.
And
it's a familiar tale for many of us.
Yeah. That's how I saw Fassbinder's Berlin Alexanderplatz.
Okay. Any preference between getting to stream movies versus going to the theater?
I like the theater more.
Sure.
It has a better sound. We saw Blade Runner a few years ago, and I'd seen it quite a few times on television. I have a 5.1 set. Sound is good, but in the cinema you get more. You really get a 3D immersion sound-wise. But streaming has its advantages in the area of older movies. You can see movies now, even if you don't have Criterion, you can see movies from 1920 or older. So it's a bit, it's not black and white. It's a lot of gray. It has its advantages. It has its disadvantages. It really depends on what you're looking for. Netflix in the Netherlands now has a lot of old British movies from the 50s and 60s. Movies that I haven't seen on television in 30, 35 years. So that's an advantage. So I can't really say which I prefer more, theater or television streaming service.
Yeah, streaming service is definitely convenient being able to see stuff and not actually having to go out. But I think I saw it was Spirited Away on the big screen a few years back, and just having a towering screen to see all these crazy vivid animation is just pretty dazzling to the eyes. Now in the Netherlands, are most theaters digital, or are there still film theaters around?
They've all switched to digital. Yeah, it's there's nothing left as far as I know that goes with the old projection ways. I don't think there are many old operators left. Old projectionists who know how to use the old style equipment.
Yep.
They're all
Definitely
basically
a dying art.
Yeah, it's a shame because if I have to choose between digital and old-fashioned film, I'm going for film. It has more. You can do a lot with digital. You can make it warm as much as you want, but there's this inner light missing, which you do have with old-fashioned projection.
Do you own many movies? And if you do, what are some of your favorites?
Well, I have a lot. We had to box them all up. We're doing the apartment, redecorating. So we all had to box them up. And I have 1,152 films.
Oh, okay.
And
Definitely a collector.
432 of them are Blu-rays.
Okay.
Favorite films?
Any collector's editions or anything kind of fancy that you happen to snag?
No, I have a bit of a problem. I try to buy as many movies as I can, so I look more at it's more the movies. The film good, transfer good, and everything else is a bonus.
Okay.
So if it's just a film, the prices are low, and I can buy 2 movies for €15 instead of one with all kinds of extras. I
Makes
have
sense.
My Heaven's Gate box sets, all 3 movies. I have several Fassbinder films. Nosferatu, a wonderful transfer bij de Model Stiftung. Dat is an organization in the name of Murnau, and their prime objective is to not only restore and save and restore Murnau's movies, but also other German movies. And they brought out a whole series of films that's just beautifully done. I have several of them. Like I said, Nosferatu. I believe they also were responsible for Metropolis. I just bought Shadows and Fog by Woody Allen, and that's just a beautiful transfer. I had it on DVD, and the transfer was pretty good. But the Blu-ray, you see more detail.
For sure.
Asking a man what's his favorite movies. He has more than 1,000 one of them.
Can you think of a film that made you mad whenever you were watching it, but you still enjoyed it?
Yeah, there's one movie that really made me angry. There's really no explanation for it. Frankie the Fly. I have it on DVD. It was really difficult to get. I think there was also a very small bunch of DVDs that were published, like a few thousand. And it's a fun movie. Every time I watch it, day later, I can't remember what I watched. I know it makes me angry, but I keep watching it. It's entertaining. It's basically the last days of Frankie the Fly.
Oh, interesting.
I have no idea what the movie is, why it makes me angry. It's a reasonably low budget film. It's well shot. It's nothing extraordinary, but it just makes me angry in a very happy kind of a way.
Okay. Yeah, sometimes big emotions can be satisfying, regardless of where they fall on the spectrum.
Yeah.
Would you say there's
You,
a? Oh, go ahead.
do you have any films that make you angry for no reason?
Oh my, yeah. I was kind of racking my brain. I was listening to you to what would be my answer for this one. Gosh, what's something that made me? I guess watching. Gosh, I guess there's a fine line between emotional and anger. Watching Showa was quite the experience between seeing kind of the mindsets of those folks in regards to what they were the topic of the film, Holocaust wise. I know there's some more political films out there that probably got on my nerves, but gosh, I'm kind of blanking. Strangely enough, maybe something will
Have you
come to me
seen
later.
Showa?
I have.
That's an infuriating film. And not by the subject, but the perpetrators. A lot of them are completely remorseless. They're proud of what they've done.
Crazy, yeah.
That's an infuriating movie. If I have to say another film, that one. But that's reasonable why you get angry. It's you can explain that. Frankie the Fly, just get angry.
Yeah, night and day there, but that's all right. Was there a film or a series of films that might have defined your childhood?
That's a good one. Defining films of my childhood. I could say Indiana Jones, but I saw them quite late. I was already an adult. Well, almost an adult.
That's a great pick. I would probably categorize myself as an Indiana Jones. Define my childhood as well. After watching it, I remember wanting to be an archaeologist myself, and was thrilled to watch them all back to back. Backtracking a little bit. Okay, so a film that made me angry was probably have to be my least favorite film of all time, which is Lars von Trier's The Idiots. Have you ever seen that
Oh
one?
yeah. I watched the first 30 minutes and I was never able to finish it.
Mm-hmm.
TV went out, and we never were able to get another copy. It was stuck in the VCR, couldn't get it out.
Oh,
It's a whole
bizarre. Maybe
story,
for the
but
best.
I liked it. I can understand why most people hate it. It's an art film, but von Trier is not exactly the most accessible film director.
Hmm.
If I have to choose between Godard and von Trier, I prefer Godard. He makes film, and von Trier wants to piss people off.
Oh yeah. Sometimes it works beautifully, and then there's the idiots.
Yeah.
I'm real excited about the Celebration just came out from Criterion. Um, what's the name of that Danish director again?
Yeah, he was one of the signs of Dogma. Dogma, what was it? Dogma 95?
Yeah, one of those directors. He also
Um,
did Drunk from last year.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Oh, definitely
Should put it
recommend.
on my list.
Danish director.
He did a lot of.
Oh, Winterberg.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
Winterberg.
thinking of.
I think he's kind of underappreciated. You don't hear much of him.
I need to see more of his stuff. I haven't seen Celebration. I haven't seen The Hunt, but I've heard great things. And
You haven't seen
gotta make
Celebration? You
time.
mean in the hotel and you're in for something? It's. We talked about good openings. That movie, it's not so really an opening, but when there's a speech being held and what he reveals, that just hits you. It's a movie you should see before you die. Really.
Will do. What is the film you've seen the most? Would it be Nosferatu?
Actually, it would be Blade Runner.
Okay.
I had a girlfriend who loved that film. She had a VCR. It was in the 90s, and she had a little black. I've seen Blade Runner first 32 times and watched it in black and white. She had a very small black and white television and a VCR, and that's how I saw it. Every weekend the movie was on. So she had this obsession with it. So that's the movie I've seen the most. It's very
Any
good.
thought?
I
Any
love
thoughts
it.
on having the monologue versus no monologue?
I prefer the without. It works better. If you let the picture speak for itself, the imagery works better. I like the monologue. It's not bad. It's not as awful as people make it out to be,
Yeah.
but it becomes more of a B film noir than what it really is. Philosophical approach on what makes us human.
Well
If
spoken.
I had to, by the way, movies that define my childhood, gangster movies.
Okay.
Those really define my childhood. I've seen a lot of them before I was 10 years old. I
Now, what
wasn't really allowed
style
to
would this
watch
be?
television, but I was allowed to watch a lot of gangster films. And basically anything Jimmy Cagney or B movies, the cheap ones they made in the late 40s, early 50s, the weak movies came in on Monday, were out on Sunday. Those really defined my childhood. Gangster.
Yeah, a lot of good classics there. I need to see more of those. I've seen a couple, but
Mm.
all right. What is the next movie you have always wanted to watch? So basically, how we came together with this is I asked you if you're interested to come on and talk about Pierrot le Fou, and you're like, oh, that'll work. Let's say if you were to come on again in the future, what would be your pick for something you've always wanted to check out and bring me along for the ride?
That's a good one. If you had asked me that 2 weeks ago, I would have said Breathless, but I've seen that one now. Um, that's a really good question. There's a Fassbinder television series. Let me see, what was the name? 8 Stunden sind kein Tag. 8 hours aren't a day, or 8 hours don't make up a day. And it's a Fassbinder series. It's not as known as Berlin Alexanderplatz.
Mm-hmm.
I think there were 12 episodes, and
I've heard of that.
it's more toned down than Berlin Alexanderplatz. I haven't seen it, not even one single scene, and I'm curious. That or Germany Pale Mother, or Pale Mother Germany. That's also a movie. I don't think it's Fassbinder. I think it's Futurata. Let me see who else. I can't remember who the director is. I just got it in a week ago. And that's a movie I still want to watch. So maybe I should wait for it. Maybe we can do this again.
Yeah.
That's a
why
really
not?
good movie. Yeah, there are enough movies. 33,000 movies in the world, I've been told. So you have enough to choose from.
Oh, absolutely. Can you think of
Any
a film
favorite
that?
movies? You have
Oh,
any
go ahead.
favorite movies left you want to see?
Oh, good question. I've been knocking them off like crazy, but I'm sure there's still some stuff out there. That actually my inspiration for starting this show was this movie called Sneakers. Um,
90s
as
movie, Robert
hmm
Redford, group of hackers. Am I correct?
Yep, and
Yeah.
that was always on our shelf, and I just never got to it. Um, I've been putting
Yeah,
Overlord
we
off
talked
for a
about that, I
while.
believe, in our letterbox. The last scene where he asked for the girl's number. He can ask anything he wants, and he asked for a number.
hmm Okay.
Yeah, it's one of the most romantic scenes ever.
What else jumps ahead to my? I think whatever happened to Baby Jane, that's pretty high up there for one of the ones that I
That's a
still
good
need to
one.
catch.
That's a real good one.
But yeah, I've been pretty fortunate to watch a lot of the classics I put off for a long time. Like finally saw The Apartment a few years ago, and King Kong, and the list goes on and on.
That's a good. Um, I can't remember who posted. I think it was Arrow, Blu-ray publishing. Let me see. I think it was Arrow. There's a Blu-ray with The Apartment, and I think it was done by Arrow, and it's a really good transfer. I think they restored one scene that was missing. I read something about that.
Yeah, I need to give that one another chance now that I know his work a little better now. One that I need to read. The first one I saw from Wilder was Lost Weekend, and I saw that back in college, so I didn't really probably appreciate it nearly as much as I would now. But
There's a good Blu-ray transfer out of that one. I bought it last year, watched it, and the transfer is perfect. Like really perfect, as good as digital can get.
mhm.
Yeah, I don't know if you ever bought it already, or you have the
Okay,
Blu-ray.
of which one? The Apartment?
The last weekend. No, the
Oh
last
no,
weekend. You have the.
no. I think the only Wilder film I own is Some Like It Hot, and that's one of my favorites. Usually, I only buy films whenever I know I love them. So that's
Yeah, that's worth to buy it because the transfer is really good, really well done,
hmm
and not just image-wise, also sound-wise. It's one of the few movies that I should have bought a lot earlier.
what's a real confusing film that by the end it kind of clicked in and you appreciated it way more since you kind of finally understood it.
Mm, Solaris, but I had to watch it twice.
Which one was it?
Solaris,
Oh, Solaris,
uh,
the Tarkovsky.
Solaris. Yeah,
Okay.
I had to watch it twice.
Yep. That actually, probably my answer would probably be Mir. That was my first Tarkovsky, and
I
I
haven't
was
seen that
just
one
so
yet.
lost. That one just had a good Blu-ray came out a couple years ago, but yeah, Mir was. I was totally lost, and then I finally got what he was doing at the end. And I was like, oh, this. And I pretty much had the same experience watching it the second time. There's just some directors they can like Mulholland Drive, I've seen three times, and every time I'm just totally lost until I'm not.
Yeah, I had a friend explain it to me, Mulholland Drive, and he said you really should watch the second part first and the first part second, and then
Okay.
it becomes more clear.
Oh,
So,
I bet.
well, it's David Lynch, so clear is optional. Um, I haven't seen Mirror yet. It's high on my list of movies I still want to see. That one is Stalker. Although I've been told that Stalker is a difficult one.
It's probably the
Solar.
same caliber as Solaris.
Okay.
Solaris.
Have you seen
I would say.
the television series Solaris, Russian Soviet television series, late
Ooh, no,
'60s?
I
I
have
watched a few
not. I didn't.
episodes.
Had not even realized it was a TV series.
Yeah,
That'd be cool. I've enjoyed all the because I saw what was it, Decalogue, the Polish miniseries. So
I'm
yeah, it'd
gonna
be
watch that
interesting
very
to see
soon.
more of that.
I have friends who are Polish, so I'm gonna be. I told them I never heard of it. Polish television series. Really? Yeah, never heard of it. So I'm gonna be watching that very soon with them.
Oh,
So
very
I'm
good.
curious what they're gonna think of it.
What in a horror film will actually scare you, kind of get under your skin, kind of make you keep thinking about it later that night?
Nothing.
Okay.
Horror films don't scare me. I was 7 years old. I sneaked into. My parents went to bed early. It was Saturday evening, and I went downstairs, turned on the television, and saw The Exorcist.
Yeah.
When I was 7 years old, and I turned on the television right at the moment where she is on the bed, turns her head, and all that. After that, horror doesn't really scare me anymore. Not as it used to be.
Yeah, I saw that at a pretty young age myself, and it took a while to get some of those images out. But every now and then I come across something that's pretty unsettling. I was just thinking of Rosemary's Baby is kind of an unsettling one in terms of just like somebody's body not having control of it.
Mm. Body control. Body movies. Cronenberg. What does
Yeah.
that do to you? Scary or disgusting?
Oh, well, what do I think of them? I think they're pretty cool, to be honest. I had a great time with Scanners, and The Fly was pretty wild. I guess the most messed up one is a Videodrome, but I find those quite fun. I guess what really gets under my skin is whenever you get into the mutilation stuff, like in like Antichrist or like Solo and stuff like that, where it's like people doing self harm. That really makes me cringe up.
Um, um, that horror movie that came out a few years ago, set in Sweden. Midnight Summer. What's it called? There's a lot of gruesome death. Two
Mhm.
people jump to the deaths. To all elderly people. They no longer serve the community, so they end their
Oh,
lives.
oh, are you talking
Um,
about Midsummer?
yeah, Midsummer. Extreme or you went well, it's doable.
Yeah, that was pretty intense, but enjoyable at the same time in the strangest way.
Yeah, it's like kind of like a car wreck. You don't want to watch, but you still watch.
Uh huh.
It's art
I think
hypnotic,
Godard likes
really.
to do that as well.
Yeah, it's well, with Godard, it's not really shocking. It's well, maybe it's unsettling. More, maybe more it's more of a challenging your ideas and preconceptions. And this was more of let's make the viewer feel really uncomfortable.
Hmm. Can you think of a real memorable trip to the movies, maybe with some friends or the audience was real rowdy or anything like that?
Um, I was in Belgium once. It was the beginning of the '90s, and this I think it was kind of a pop-up cinema in a basement or a cellar, really, and a fist fight broke out
Oh my goodness.
between a man and a woman, and I think she heard something that was said on the screen, and he disagreed. So yeah, a man and a woman, in their early 20s, pretty drunk, ending up in a fist fight. It was pretty memorable.
I
In
bet.
general, yeah, the weird
Do you
things
know?
don't really ever
Do you remember what
happen.
you were watching?
It was a Belgian movie. I can. Um, Coco Flanel.
Oh, okay.
It's a Belgian movie. Urbanus is stand-up comedian, sort of stand-up comedian, European style. So there's jokes and there's singing. And he made a couple of movies, and one of them was Coco Flanel, and they show that. And it's a comedy film. You can take your kids to it. It's very innocent, and a fist fight broke out in that show. That was weird.
Yeah, I would say so. No wonder. Glad you explained the movie a little bit. Adds even
You
more
should
kind
look
of
it up.
some funny
I think it's on
context.
YouTube. I don't think there's any English subtitles, but I think it's on YouTube. It's a fun movie.
Do you have a favorite one to recommend to friends?
Max?
Okay. Yep. And you have done that, and I needed to make time to watch it.
Yeah, it's. I can't explain what it is. I just love the film. I watched with a friend of mine a few weeks ago. And she said it's a nice film, but I don't see the fascination with it. It's nice. It's well made, but it's nothing spectacular. It's a small story. It's not big budget, and I have this fascination with it, and I really just basically try to sell it to everyone. Watch this film. The director's kind of. Sorry?
I was definitely need to make time to watch it sooner than later now. Next one on my plate is Around the World in 80 Days, and I was kind of taken aback by it because it starts off with that the Méliès film Earth to the Moon, and I wasn't expecting that at all. And so far, it's like not gotten to the point at all. So so far so bad on that one, but we'll see how it goes with the rest of the 2 hours and 45 minutes I have left.
It's a long movie. I don't think I've seen it yet. No,
Yeah, I
haven't seen
have
it.
two, and this actually transitions perfect to our next question. I have two more Best Picture Oscar winners to go. Around the World in 80 Days and Gigi, which I've heard that's quite pedophilic in nature. So that'll be.
I've seen it only once. I was 16, and it gave me, it didn't give me a dirty feeling, but it's not something I would really recommend to anybody on the age of 21.
Okay.
It's a bit icky, to a degree.
Okay.
I watched
Now,
Cuties on Netflix, and that's less icky than Gigi.
which one?
Cuties.
Oh,
I watched that, and that was less icky. So, again, it gives you an idea.
now what would you say your favorite Oscar winner was, whether it be Best Picture or Director or Actress?
Oscar winner. Oh,
Do you pay any
wow.
attention much to the Oscars?
Never. I watched it once just to get it over with. And I really don't pay any attention. Favorite Oscar winner. I think Taxi Driver was an Oscar winner.
It won some stuff, I'm pretty sure. Not Best Picture, but
Not bad.
Marty didn't win until Departed, far after he
For
probably should have.
Aviator. I thought he won for Aviator, didn't he?
No, that was the year of $1 Million Baby, so Clint Eastwood swiped at that time.
Yeah, he's been kind of been. It's a good movie, The Departed, but Taxi Driver was so much better. Or Goodfellas.
Mm-hmm.
With the last out to Driving Miss Daisy. It's still a remarkable choice.
Oh yeah, that is this. Well, let me double check that.
I think that lost to Driving Miss Daisy.
I think it lost out to Dancing with Wolves.
Not a bad film, but
Okay. Can you think of the craziest film you've seen? Crazy, obviously, being pretty subjective.
Helse Papen.
House of Bobbin?
Helse Papen. It's
What was that about?
1930s screwball film, and to describe it is near impossible. A group of producers want to make a film, and it's basically a film inside of a film inside of a film. To give you an idea, there's a man who walks in, and his first appearance, a few minutes into the film, and he's holding a small plant in a pot, and he pops up every every now and then, and every time he shows up, the plant is bigger, and in the end of the movie, he's basically walking around with a palm tree. And two producers, or no, director and a writer, I believe, are talking, and they're talking, and they're walking, and they open a door, and they will go through the door, and a completely different movie. The different set, different lighting, everything is just different. It's the most screwball comedy ever made.
Okay.
It's not very well known anymore, but I've seen it once, and I have the DVD. It took me 3 years to get the DVD, so it's not the most accessible movie to buy. But it's just nuts. It's just absolutely insane.
Your favorite country for movies other than Germany and the U.S. and the Netherlands?
The Netherlands is not my favorite movie nation. We do a lot, but we're not really that good at making films, sadly. Italy. I'd say okay. Italy. Yeah, Visconti, Fellini. Those are two are just Pasolini. Those three already justify Italy as a film nation, one of the greatest film nations.
Yeah, I need to get back into more Fellini. It's been far too long since I've seen a new one of those. I think the last one I saw was Satyricon, and I was a little put off by it. But I know you got more great stuff.
I've seen it several times, and it's not an easy film. Adam Davis wrote an interesting review about it. Have you read it?
Who did?
Adam Davis.
Oh, okay.
Wrote a review about Satyricon, and it's a good review. It's
yeah, I really admire what Adam's doing with watching all the Criterions all the way through, pretty much with very little other movies in between. So I'll have to go back, check down what he had to say about that. That'd be
it's a good review. He really didn't like it.
His take.
Yeah, he didn't like it. I can see why. And it took me 3 times to watch it. I don't think I'm gonna watch it again. It's a difficult one. And
bizarrely, I think I liked Caligula more than I liked Satyricon. And that's probably saying a lot.
Penthouse adaptation. It was adapted by the owner of Penthouse. Make it more appealing to a larger audience.
Oh, you could say that again.
That worked.
What's the worst film you've ever seen?
The worst film I've ever seen? There are a lot of them. The first one that comes to mind, Project X.
Now that's a teenage party movie?
Basically, Beavis and Butthead on steroids with even less intelligence. That's the best way to describe it. It's I think it's about one of 5 movies I actually stopped watching after 10 minutes. And I watched a lot of film. I've seen a lot of bad films, but nothing like that. It's just awful. I've seen several movies by the director of Plan 9 from Outer Space, Ed Wood. I've seen several of his movies, and they are masterpieces compared to that one. So I just
good quote. All right, number 25.
Most underrated. Movies, you want to name?
Of the worst variety. I mean, I don't really seek out many bad movies, so I'm a little underwatched here. You try to kind of go out for the classics, but bad movies. I mean, some of the stuff I go out and see with the kids. Like I saw the Angry Birds 2 a few years ago, and I just felt miserable watching that one.
I've never seen that.
You're doing yourself a favor. So yeah, the art of bad movies. It's something I need to get more in my head around. I haven't watched very many. I try to stick with the good ones, and shoot, sometimes you have these highly acclaimed films like Harakiri and stuff, and I for some reason didn't care for it, and so it's interesting, kind of going on a platform like Letterboxd and kind of duking it out with people, with their opinions. So. And the most underrated film is our last one.
Most underrated film. I won't say Max.
Okay.
Most underrated.
Oh, you won't say Max.
No, I won't say Max. It would be too easy. The most underrated film. That's a good one. Most underrated film. I'd say Character. It's in the Netherlands. It's not underrated. It's quite popular, but internationally, it's not really that well known. It's a very well made movie. It's based on a book.
It's called Character.
Character. It's set
Okay.
in Rotterdam in the 1920s, and it's between a young man who's trying to get up his mother is raised by his mother. He doesn't know who his father is. He is trying to make something of his life. He gets confronted with poverty, working class, the fact that the authorities don't care, and he particularly is in a private war with I think it's 25 years since I've seen it, with a bailiff who basically just evicts people, and I don't think you call it a bailiff, like a repo man for houses. I don't know what you call it in English.
Usually, yeah, repossession. Usually, the bank forecloses on a home.
Yeah, and
If that's what you're talking about.
this man does this in the 1920s, working class, and this young man gets into a small war with this man, not knowing that this is actually his father. So it's a very well made movie, very well shot, but it's not really well known outside of the Netherlands. It's a Dutch movie, so subtitles. And a lot of people don't like subtitles.
Yeah, I think I can finally say I've come around on them. My ability to read it and watch it and take it in has come light years in the last 5 years, I would say. So, but you'll have to do us all a big favor and put a lot of these recommendations down into a letterbox list so we can have a little easier access.
That's good. I'll make a nice list of films you see, Dutch films and the European movies. I like making, yeah, just this week, maybe next, I'll publish a list.
Yeah, no rush. Always got time, hopefully.
Oh, yes.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, but right when we get back, we're going to slap on some blue paint all over our faces and we chat about little Pierrot le Fou right after this. Film is like a battleground. There's love, hate, action, violence, death. In one word, emotion. I am joined by my longtime Letterboxd follower and friend Max, and we're going to be talking about a Godard film. And I really didn't put much thought into, what a Godard film would probably be like in this kind of format, but hopefully I'm prepared. We will only see. The synopsis, courtesy of Wikipedia, Pierrot le Fou, which is French for Pierre the Fool, is a 1965 French New Wave film by Jean-Luc Godard starring Jean-Paul Belmondo and Anna Karenina. The film is based on the 1962 novel Obsession by Lionel White. It was Godard's 10th feature film, released between Alphaville and Masculine Feminine. The plot follows Ferdinand, an unhappily married man, as he escapes his dull society life and travels from Paris to the Mediterranean Sea with Marianne, a girl chased by OAS hitmen from Algeria, if they say so. So,
it's a terrorist group that still exists.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I do not know much about the French and the Algerians. I think about everything I know about that comes up in the Battle of Algiers.
Yeah, it was. Let me see if I remember correctly. It was a right-wing French terrorist group founded in 61 or 62, and they wanted to stop Algiers from succeeding from France. They wanted to remain in the colony. And I'm not surprised it was part of this film that Marianne was a member of this group. This film is everything that Godard was interested in or admired or followed. You see Marxism in it, in this critique on bourgeoisie, which Pierrot is. He calls him Pierrot, and Pierrot is a sad clown. It's commedia dell'arte. And she really sees what he is. At least in her eyes, he is a sad capitalist clown. So Marxist criticism. Then there is pop art, Andy Warhol. And as far as I remember, Godard was still is, as far as I know, interested in pop art. But you also see more of a comic book approach. Mm-hmm. The way the scenes are done, primary colors a lot, clear lines, so no unnecessary details. It's a lot of comic book, shot in the way of a comic book, which makes sense because you have a storyboard if you want to make a movie, which really is kind of a comic book.
Yeah. So I spotted this on your watch list. How long had it been on your radar to watch? Like you had said, you had only seen Breathless not long ago.
Yeah, I'm kind of lacking Godard's film. It's been on my list. I've wanted to watch it for 20 years now. Everything. It's really embarrassing. There are a lot of films that I want to watch. They're on the list, but never get around it. And this is probably the longest, been the longest on my list, 20 years.
Oh, perfect. I'm glad I picked it.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you agreed.
I no longer have an excuse not to watch it.
Here's some fun facts about the film. So, despite continual claims that Godard had shot the majority of his films without a script or preparation, actress Anna Karina has subsequently claimed what they were in fact very carefully planned out small details with an obsessive level of perfection. So, I can kind of see that.
I agree on that one. This was very well organized improv.
Kind of taking thoughts and putting them down somehow into a sequence and writing the dialogue apparently the night before to make it as poignant as possible. Yeah, you can get some pretty busy films that way.
Yeah. This is the type of film you cannot just do on the fly. You need to plan ahead. You need to plan it in detail. And Godard never does anything just for the fun of it. It's not that kind of a director.
And if you're not too familiar with Godard, his quote about Pierrot le Fou is, "It's not really a film, it's an attempt at cinema."
That's clear.
Nothing like a Frenchman to say that.
Oh, yeah. But it's true. I fully agree with that. It's when you see Samuel Fuller and Belmondo's character asked, I always wanted to know what cinema is, and Fuller explains it. It's emotion, and that's true. The worst films are probably the ones that don't create an emotion. And it can be anger, it can be disgust, it can be hatred, frustration. But when there was emotion, there was a film. Even Project X, a movie I really do not like, created emotion. And that's really it's entertainment. But having a good time is also an emotion. So film is about emotion. As soon as that's no longer present, then the movie is failing.
This is a fun fact that I didn't expect at all. Apparently Godard wanted to shoot this in English with Richard Burton and Sylvia Vartan as the two main characters. That's been interesting to see this film that's, I think, very much making fun of the United States. Actually shot in the U.S., shot in English.
Yeah, I have no idea what the idea was behind that one. Richard Burton is a very different actor.
And then my last one.
In that role would have been very, very interesting and very weird. It's so counterintuitive on how Burton is. very Shakespearean actor, and doing a movie like this could have been a disaster, could have been brilliant. It would have been interesting.
All's fair in love and Godard. Um,
Yes,
so he
that's
was
a good
still
one.
married to Anna Karenina at that time. It kind of makes me wonder because there's a lot of when I rewatched back through this, I was getting a lot more tension between the couple. So yeah, I'm wondering how much of that was actually in their own relationship.
Mm, yeah, I think there was something going on there between all three of them.
Hmm.
And I don't
Okay.
think the relationship between Belmondo and Karina was that good,
Hmm.
at least from her point. I don't think she really was acting when she called him. She keeps calling. The thing is, every time she calls him Pierrot, he
Yep.
gets frustrated. And I don't think the frustration was acting. You can really see it. It's there. Interesting. The movie was shot back to front, so they started out in southern France,
Hmm.
and they worked backwards to the beginning, set in Paris.
Okay.
And you see his angry reaction in the beginning. No, it's not Perot, it's Ferdinand. And I don't think that was acting. And then in the beginning, he's yeah, it's not that. It's not Perot and Ferdinand. I think he just accepted that he felt contempt. Could be me. Could be a projection. I'm seeing things that aren't really there, but I don't think it was acting. And
I
although
was.
I don't think the marriage of Karina and Godard was that doing well at that point.
Hmm.
He kills her off in really a fast, very unglamorous way.
Yeah.
He has the main character just kill her off. So I think that's one way of ending a marriage.
Interesting stuff to think about there in terms of life imitating art. So one of my upfront questions here. So what are your opening thoughts on Godard? Kind of what are some of the movies you've seen from him? A favorite at this point, and how does that relate with this one?
Favorite, I have to say, it used to be Alphaville. I really liked that film. It's French noir, but noir in the French way. So less gangster, more intellectual. I like Breathless now more. There's just something about it that makes it. I enjoy it, but I enjoy all his movies. But there's something about Breathless that just makes it more. It's accessible, but not easy, and I like that. He, Breathless, you don't get an easy. You have to work for it.
Yeah, I feel
I
that.
like it.
Yeah, I'm really glad I had seen. So I think I've seen seven now, which really prepared me for this. Alphaville and Weekend are the ones that this reminded me the most of. In,
I haven't
ti
seen Weekend.
in terms of Alphaville being kind of a genre film, and then Weekend just being craziness on film. I would say Contempt's my favorite at this point, just because I thought Contempt was so funny in how he's basically just kind of making fun of making movies while making a movie, which I got a real
I've
good
seen
kick
that
out of.
one, and I have to rewatch it. I put it in my watch list
Hmm.
because I felt I missed something.
Okay.
I like. I like this movie. It's like I said. It's you have to work on it more than in Breathless. It's less accessible, but I did like it. Content, I don't get it. I have to rewatch it. I really have the feeling I missed something, and more than with this than with Bureau. And I can't really explain what it is that I missed.
How long ago did you see that one?
About 12 years ago, 11,
Okay.
12 years ago. Yeah, something like that. And I haven't gotten around to it. I have it on DVD. I really need to watch it, but so many films I have to watch.
Yep. Story of my life, our lives. Um, So I kind of got a sneak peek into what you thought of this one because I saw you were online and I was like, oh, so I saw last night, pretty wild film, and you were saying you were really digging it. So how would you describe your experience? I'll go first just to kind of set the ground. This is kind of a movie where you could easily tune out because of the mundanity that Godard likes to, fill in the gaps of his movies with. And I really had no idea what was going on for the first hour. But then, whenever kind of towards the end, where we actually see the terrorists, it clicked that it was a satire. And then from then on out, I was really digging how off kiltered it is. And yeah, I've since kind of watched it kind of in fast forward just to kind of get a grasp of all the scenes again. And then I watched the first half right before we started. So hopefully I'm prepared for this conversation. What was your experience like?
I can understand why you didn't see that it was satire till the second half, because the opening really throws you off.
Mm-hmm.
It starts out as a very conventional film. There's a man in a bathtub reading from a book to a 4-year-old. I think she was 4, the little girl.
Little girl.
Which is a very odd scene. You have an adult man sitting in his bathtub reading a book about Velasquez to his 3 or 4-year-old daughter. And it really starts out conventional, and then you already see this little jump, like there are little frames missing. I don't know if you noticed it. He's in the bathroom getting dressed, and then suddenly he's behind her. It's like there are a few frames missing, and that's already an indication that this is not going to be this is going to be different, even for a Godard film. Although you already have that in Breathless, where you get the feeling that there are frames missing.
Yep, a lot of jump cuts. Yeah, I didn't notice the jump cut there, but I believe you that it's there for sure.
It's a very short, very fast jump cut, and it works well. And from there on, it really begins. It's a satire. There is alienation that already starts when he's at the party. You see everybody in monochrome colors except for him. It's surreal. There's a reason why surrealism was invented by the French, mostly by the French. Yeah. I just really love this. It's non-conventional. It's not always logical. But it doesn't take itself serious, which also really helps. You can have satire, you can have surreal imagery if it takes itself not too serious. If it becomes heavy-handed, it gets in the way of itself. All right.
The thing that stood out most to me were by far the bright colors throughout, these bright blues and yellows and reds and occasionally green. Any thoughts on the colors and anything else really stand out and surprise you?
I think the colors really refer to the French motto, the equality,
liberty, fraternity,
and freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And you see it in the opening with the lettering. You see red letters and blue letters. And it also starts with the alphabet from A to B to C to D, which this film really does not. Because it jumps around.
Yeah, that was a really neat, interesting opening title there, where it slowly fills in the gaps. So you're saying that they posted the letters A to Z?
First, you get the A letters, and the B letters, the C letters. And I noticed that, and I thought, that's different. I haven't seen that before. Normally you see a few letters, and then you see I don't think Woody Allen did this. So I've seen that before, that the letters start appearing and you get words, but I've never seen it like alphabetically from A to B to C to D. So that's already an indication that things are going to be different, and I really like that opening. And then you see him in the bathtub, and that throws you, because it's going to be a normal drama movie, gangster-like. And you get the jump cut, and it starts getting weirder. And those colors, it's pop art. It's comic books. It used to be the comic books were either black and white or very few colors. So that's a reference to it. Lots of white and red, white, and blue. Again, it's a reference to the French flag, the French identity.
there's that one scene where there's like in a building, and each like floor or each even window on this building had a different color. Not not all different colors, but just the same kind of same couple colors repeated over and over. And it just really speaks to the production design for him to insert such bold color throughout. Because I mean, what Alphaville is black and white, so
Yeah.
yeah, it's really cool to see directors like Godard and Kurosawa really take advantage of color. It's not just the way he's filming it. It's there's some purpose there.
Yeah. It's a color noir. It's a film noir in color. I think he might have been the very first one to have ever done that.
One critique I saw was kind of describing it as pulp. I'm not too familiar with how to define pulp, and then they were comparing it a lot to Pulp Fiction, which we'll get to. What's an aspect of the story that surprised you?
Him shooting her.
Oh, the ending. Okay.
Yeah, it surprised me because it also it shows that she's wrong about him. He's not a sad clown. If he wants to, he can bite back. So in the whole film, he basically goes along with her. They fight. They have this stage accidents, which I personally thought was very funny. That the whole look, there's an accident there. There's also another thing. You see people getting killed. You see in the beginning of the movie, you see the car accident. It's a very how can I put this? It looks more like an art installation. The whole accident.
Okay.
You have a body hanging over a tree branch, I believe it was. And then you have the car that looks just right. It's very, maybe not an art installation, more like a commercial. Instead of selling milk or a new pair of shoes, we're selling a car accident. So it's very stylized, very neat.
Was that when they blew up their own car?
Yeah.
Or are you thinking before that?
I think before that. We see the accident, so we can imitate. Look, there's an accident over there. We can do that too, fake our deaths.
Oh, right. Okay.
That one. And then they blow up the car.
Okay.
I think that's Godard also saying in capitalist society, we'll sell anything, even a car accident, if it can make us money.
Ain't that the truth when it comes to insurance? I would say the thing that surprised me most was it actually was this like on the run story, which, like I said, it really didn't click for me that was what was going on, because there's so little focus on the fact that they're running from these guys. And then in the end, it had the feel of a James Bond satire to me. But then rewatching the beginning of it, it feels more like a Bonnie and Clyde satire. So it can be a lot of things.
It's a satire on film. Mm-hmm. It's different genres coming together with a veneer of satire. It's not easy to analyze this film. It's the most difficult he ever did analyze-wise.
You mentioning the bathtub a few times there, I was thinking more about Eyes Wide Shut, with how so much of that movie is shot in these indoor domestic places, the bathroom, the kitchen, and so forth, with these couples talking about these difficult topics of attraction. So kind of curious to go back and see Eyes Wide Shut now that I've seen a little more Godard, and see if maybe Kubrick was on that wavelength. Does that sound? Am I going out on a limb there, or you think there's anything to that?
I don't know. I think it's a very chilly movie. I don't think, for all his weirdness, Godard is a very warm filmmaker, and Stanley Kubrick. I don't agree on that one. I think Eyes Wide Shut is very cold, very distant.
Okay.
Very.
I guess I was mostly thinking the just the comparison being with Godard films so often, like Breathless, there's that scene where they're just kind of sitting in bed and talking for the longest time, and I think Contempt, she's like in a bathtub or something. So just the idea of a couple talking in this very plain setting, I guess, was kind of what I was getting at. But yeah, you're absolutely right with Kubrick being a more detached filmmaker for sure.
You mean the in the beginning when Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman are sitting on the floor of the bedroom and they're talking, and as in inspired by the bathroom scene in Breathless? You mean that?
Yeah, perhaps.
It's a
Yeah.
good scene. It's probably the best scene in the whole film in Eyes Wide Shut. As you should really see some emotion, some warmth between them. But that's on the whole, it's a very cold, distant film, which is pretty much a signature of Kubrick. You can accuse him of a lot of things, but his movies are not the warmest films in the world.
Yeah, I think that I'm a huge fan, but I know a lot of folks that get a little irritated with not finding them accessible at first, and I've always really enjoyed revisiting that. But back to Pierrot le Fou. I'm going to run through the plot a little bit, and these are my notes, and yeah, feel free to jump in and what have you on what you think of these things. So we meet Ferdinand. He was recently fired from a TV job. I'm not really sure if that matters or not. And yeah, he's about to.
It does matter because
Okay.
it's a fact of friction between him and his wife. I got the impression that he is not from a rich background. His wife is inherited money. His father is in charge of a pretty big company. That's why they go to that party to get him a job. And really is basically not so much a husband as more of a semi pet for his wife.
Okay.
So
Kind of
him
boy
losing his
toy.
job really takes away the last bit of respect she probably had for him.
Okay. And yeah,
No, it does not.
leaves them behind. Didn't he like shove some like cake in her face to kind of kick off his
Yeah,
heading out of town?
it was a very screwball comedy thing.
Yeah.
That's what we really see, the different genres of comedy and drama and satire and road movie. That really kicks it off.
Runs off with a babysitter, but
Yeah.
she's not your typical babysitter by any means.
Wow. But it's also interesting. There is an indication that they had a previous relationship, but the relationship was better and deeper than between him and his wife. You get a sense that he left her to marry his wife to basically get the money, which turned out to be not as wonderful as he expected.
Okay. Is it just me, or is that a giant cigarette? Constantly has a big old cigarette hanging out of his mouth, and it's quite substantial. Maybe it's just the fact that he
Yeah, I
probably
think
rolled it
that's
himself.
Belmondo. I think it's himself. I don't think it's part of the character because in Breathless he has it, and I think I've seen 2 other films with him where he also smokes. I think it's not so much Godard who did this. I think it's the actor himself.
Okay, I can see that. I was really on another watch. I was really admiring how poetic the dialogue was there in the beginning, and a lot of sexy language there. And then there's a scene where you kind of see the male gaze in action, where he's like eyeing this like underwear model or a pantyhose deal in a magazine, looking down to the top and saying that it was the age of ass. Talk about a quote there.
Yeah, I read it. I haven't done much reading after watching the movie, but I did read that. I think it was meant as a commentary on how women are treated in society by Godard, which I find slightly a stretch, but okay.
Yeah, I thought a lot of sexism commentary throughout. Actually, a lot actually talking about gender roles of men, but we'll get there. Any thoughts on those flooded rooms in the at the party scene? In terms of, is it just stylistic, or you think is it saying anything to be? Because I think there was one scene where it was like he walked through half the frame, it was blue, and then it suddenly turned green. Anything to that, you think?
I think it has meaning, but I have not figured out what it is.
Yeah, fair
I
enough.
think it says something about him that he's more three-dimensional, and the society he now lives in, the world of his wife is very monochrome, very flat. I
Okay.
haven't figured quite out what he means with that. It's I have to rewatch it really.
Yeah, definitely recommend it.
Yeah.
Um, and then he talks to Sam Fuller through the one girl, and it's kind of funny how how Fuller will like say something pretty elegant, but whenever she translates it to French, it's very brief and not quite the same eloquence. Regardless, what his quote is, the one I said off the top there about what cinema is in terms of being all those things. Where is it? Okay. Love, hate, action, violence, death, and one word emotion. And that's pretty much, I feel like it sets up the whole, what we're about to see for the next hour and a half.
That's what I said. A film is emotion. If there's no emotion, your film has failed.
Do you, is there ever at times when you're watching this movie when you just think it's just random for the sake of random, or do you think everything has a meaning?
Mm, I don't think it's random for the sake of random, but I do believe that at some point he kind of painted himself in a corner.
Okay.
Think the ending was maybe not completely what he meant it to be. It feels rushed,
Hmm. It's an
and
interesting take.
yeah, I didn't get quite the impression that he wrote a script and it got to a certain length. It needed an ending, and he came up with this. It felt really rushed. Could be wrong, but if you compare it to Breathless, it's also quite abrupt. Abrupt. He gets shot in the street,
Mm-hmm.
but it feels much more a natural development than in this one.
Um, the topless lady at the party kind of caught my eye as being a little random, but then you listen to what she has to say, and it's she's kind of making a political statement, and then you go to the next room, and then there's another lady without a top on. So it's almost like this was kind of a party where a lot of eroticism was going on, perhaps. Going back to her apartment real quick. Well, we're going to get there, but I found it random that there was guns laying all over her apartment. But I guess the more I think about it, she is kind of a revolutionary side of her, and maybe that has to do with the whole Algerian thing. You might be able to speak better to that part.
Yeah, that was an indication that she's not this friendly, sweet nanny and an ex-girlfriend of him. There's more depth to her, and she might be much more dangerous than he is. We tend to believe that the man is more dangerous than the woman,
Mm-hmm.
and in this case, especially this movie came out in the mid 1960s, so it was much more of an the ideal woman in the form of Marilyn Monroe. And this is really just thrown out of the window. You see all these weapons lying around, and good girls don't have weapons, and so this is not a good girl, not whatsoever, not one little bit. So it kind
Yeah,
of throws you.
yeah, that's a major conceit now that I'm thinking about it as you go through. Um, there's a scene where they're in the
There's also
car.
this
Oh, go
very
ahead.
in the car they're driving home, and
Yeah.
there's this very traditional, almost Hollywood-like scene sitting in the car
Mm-hmm.
talking. He's very dominant. He's in control, and she's the innocent young lady. And then you see those weapons, and you come to realize, well, maybe things aren't quite what they seem to be.
That was the scene that reminded me a lot of Tarantino in terms of them talking in the car, because I think they listened to a radio program and it's talking about the amount of casualties in Vietnam, and she kind of takes a deep dive on what's it actually mean to see 115 dead people, and he's kind of like tuning her out, but she's going in all this great detail about it, and it seemed very I because I've heard Tarantino is very inspired by Godard, but I hadn't really seen any good examples, but for some reason that just popped to me as being one of these deep dive conversations that you would see in a QT film, just done a little differently. So
Yeah, Tarantino did the whole car scene in Pulp Fiction.
mhm.
You can see it. It's not a one-on-one, but it comes very close. It's a different conversation they have in Pulp Fiction, but the whole interaction and how it is depicted is very much reminiscent of what's happening in this one.
But towards the end of that scene, they get very sensual with what they're talking about. It gets quite sexy, and it's pretty obvious that they make love after that. But none of that's in the movie. So, but it works just because it's so eloquently, stated between the characters. But yet we're
I think it works. I think
mhm.
leaving that out really works for this type of film. I don't think it would have worked if he had actually shown it. It wouldn't have worked.
Mhm. And then we see the guy killed by the scissors on the bed. And like you were saying earlier, it really kind of foreshadows what she's capable of. This is not your typical babysitter.
Mm.
Fem- I heard one group or one criticism that was talking about her being a femme fatale. I'm not quite sure if I'm in line with that. How about you?
She's not a femme fatale. She's a revolutionary,
Yeah,
and
I
she will
get
do
that.
anything to get what she wants. And if that means sleeping with him, she will do it. It's also interesting that they haven't seen each other for quite a long time. That's quite
Hmm.
clear, and he has this idealized idea of her, and that basically gets destroyed. He starts slowly realizing that she is no longer the person he thought she was.
This was
I
one of.
also
Mhm.
I find it interesting. The movie came out in '65, and it was a really prophetic movie because you see a lot of
I heard it made
in
a
the
lot of
second.
money.
Yeah, no, but more prophetic for what were things to come. Because you saw a
Oh,
lot of
okay.
middle class kids in the second half of the '60s become revolutionaries.
Oh, sure. That makes
And
sense.
this was what's shot in '64, came out in '65, and
Hmm.
it's like Godard watched the future and said, "No, let's make it into a film."
Great point. One of the things that surprised me most on my quick rewatch was the fact that you actually do get your first musical moment in the apartment there whenever he's on the bed and she starts kind of singing to him. And then it cuts to him and he's just like, "What are you doing?" And yeah, for some reason, the first time I watched that, I did not catch at all that she was singing. It's
Hmm?
strange how you can miss stuff on a first glance on some of this. Did you catch that?
Yeah. I thought, okay, musical. So that's one of the elements: road movie, musical, satire, comedy.
A
I
little
liked it.
everything.
Yeah,
Cinema, like you said, or he said.
yeah.
And then I forget where they go, but they run into what appears to be a former lover of hers, and she's kind of like shooing him away. So there's another instance where she's with quite a few men, so maybe he should proceed with caution.
Yeah, first I thought, okay, spurned lover, maybe coming back for her, but later on you realize he's also part of that whole group of hers. So is it a lover or is it just one member who's afraid that she's abandoning their group? Except you don't really realize that until later. I thought it was interesting.
Definitely, as an American, definitely stood out to me that they show the little Statue of Liberty they have there in Paris, and I think that's kind of, I think they definitely pointed that out because we're going to get to some satire of America coming up soon. For sure, get the Bonnie and Clyde feel whenever they're at the gas station. And I love the line she says, she would look a little less suspicious. So whenever they get the drop on the one guy and slam the hood over his head. And it cracked me up that she runs into the second guy and, he's not like freaking out or anything. He's actually starts giving her a lecture on stealing and how she should go get a job, which is not exactly what you would expect from, confronting somebody who just basically mugged your colleague.
Yeah, she said the Lauren Hardy approach. This really was a Lauren
Right.
Hardy moment.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it. It worked. It was funny. It really shows that this is not a movie you should take too serious.
Hmm. Are you a fan of Wes Anderson at all?
Yeah, I like his movies.
Um,
Him and what's his name? The other Anderson.
oh, Paul
Paul,
Thomas
uh,
Anderson.
Paul Thomas Anderson. That kind of Godard, but American style.
Yeah, I was noticing a lot in his cutaways. It seemed very Anderson-ish with how scenes are shot kind of from the side, kind of in a storybook fashion in those cutaways with the pop art you had mentioned earlier, and later on his writings and the diary.
Yeah, it's interesting that he had a diary to write down. He's more of an intellectual than he gets credit in the beginning of the film.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah,
You had compared him to more of a. Did you say a bourgeois guy or a capitalist?
yeah, I was petit bourgeois,
Uh huh.
capitalist, more interested in comfortable life, more
Hmm.
exterior and less interior. And it really is in the middle of the film where you see him. They get into that. They get on the island. They're hidden, and he has books, and he reads, and he writes.
Yeah, yeah, more
And
of a
she
bohemian
wants,
kind of or
yeah,
a
she
intellectual.
wants to continue the revolution. She gets bored,
Yep, she wants money.
and the whole image gets flipped. She's no longer that innocent girl, and he's no longer the rich man who doesn't have any interior life. And I found it interesting. And then it gets flipped again at the end because a sad clown turns out to be a dangerous clown because he has no problems in shooting her and other people when necessary.
And then a lot of conversation between them in the car is very interesting. How she's picking on him, saying like, "Guys like you are always sorry, and you're just driving down the straight line or whatever," and it drives him to drive the vehicle into the water for no apparent reason, and then it just kind of holds on that as they wander off.
It was Godard's own car, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it sank to the bottom. They couldn't get it out, as far as I know. So it was actually Godard sacrificed his own car for film. So
Crazy.
that's love for film. If you're willing to sacrifice your own car.
And she doesn't think he has a stomach for killing, but little will she'll find out to the contrary later on.
Yeah, it's really what
Mhm.
stands out for me that you never can be sure what you see. It's a film, you get images, you get an idea, and it gets flipped around, and then it gets flipped around, and it gets flipped around. In the end, you
Mhm.
really don't know what you saw, and you really don't know where you stand because you're never sure.
Then
Might
we
be a
have.
comment on life that you never really know where you are in life, but that's not an easy man to analyze.
No, not at all. Um, there's the scene you had talked about a little earlier, the car crash scene, and it's really bizarre because it's like in kind of an overpass, but it's just one piece of it. So it fell off this overpass that's totally disconnected, um, and they're saying that it needs to be. This isn't a movie. It needs to look real, but yeah, we're looking at it and it's extremely fake looking. So very juxtaposition there. They drop the
Yeah,
political
almost
line
like an
of this
art
is
installation.
the political line that the gun that she uses to blow up the car and which ends up destroying the money. I guess killed Kennedy. So
Yeah, I still haven't figured out what that meant. I thought it was
uh,
such an odd line. It's the money that killed Kennedy. Okay, I rewind. I watched it 3 times. I still can't figure out what it means.
huh.
It's the money that killed Kennedy.
Well, it's
So
probably. I mean, being there in the '60s, probably the sort of discussion about, I guess, if that was an internal job or whatever, might have been running rampant. And
yeah, I don't think that was back very common back then. I think
okay,
the whole conspiracy thing started much later. I think the early 70s.
okay,
I don't know. I haven't figured that out. I
hmm.
really have to watch that
maybe
scene
that
again because
maybe the prophetic thing again.
yeah, could be.
There's that book he's reading with the cartoon of the thugs on it.
The Tin Foot Gang. Yeah, that really was an indication that what you see is maybe not that um, realistic. Maybe it's
Mhm.
all a bit of a comic book.
Yeah, and
And it
that
carries it
definitely
around
reminded
because
me of
it
the
keeps
fellas that
popping
are
up
coming after
everywhere.
him. Hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, the Ford station's quite the funny scene where they carjack a car that slowly goes up in the air and slowly comes back down. Oh, and then let's see here. Discussion about the wife said about him in the paper. Oh, that's right. They're having a conversation about like his reaction to the wife commenting to the press about them taking off. So packed full of all these little details you pick up.
Mm.
And then
Yeah,
mhm.
it depicts a real interesting, it paints a really interesting picture of who he is, of to his wife, and it reinforces the whole. She doesn't have any respect for him. That was already indicated at the beginning. Yeah, I will get you a job. My father will get you a job, and he will take that job. And
Oh
you get
yeah.
that whole interview.
Hmm.
It really shows that he's not a man who's respected by women. That's a thing because every woman he interacts with doesn't really respect him.
Yeah, I can see that. And then there's a scene where he looks back and they're like, "Oh yeah," and he's talking to the audience now. So the conceit of it being a film. Good old Godard. Let's see here. We'll talk about the U.S. and Russia in terms of the Cold War and the space race. Little politics thrown in there. A lot more sexy talk as they've arrived in the Mediterranean, very tropical looking. And all of a sudden, there's this beautiful looking parrot, wherever that came from.
Yeah, it was also interesting. Yeah, a fox and a parrot. I don't think the parrot was chained up, but the fox was.
Oh,
And
okay.
it was a very interesting scene. I don't know. Is it the symbolism? The fox and the parrot are there, are him and her. You
Hmm.
see the fox. It has meaning, but I haven't figured out what the meaning is.
And I remember that part being very dull in their conversation. Like we spent all this time with this real interesting battle of the sexes kind of talk in the car, and then they sit down here, and all of a sudden it's real dry again. So you
Yeah,
never know what to
it's
expect. Do you know anything
kind of
about
a
Jules
lull before the
Verne?
storm. Sorry.
Do you know anything about Jules Verne?
Very famous French writer, still
Okay.
very in high regards back then.
Because I think right before it gets interesting again, she says something like, "Oh, enough Jules Verne. Let's get back to the detective novel." Um, so it kind of
Yeah,
swings
that
back
kind of
in that more action.
threw me. I've read a couple of books when I was a kid, but it's almost 40 years ago, so I don't quite understand the reference.
Get a little bit more commentary about Vietnam with them entertaining I guess the GIs there with her getting dressed up in yellow face and him acting like a cocky American. I think they do that to get some money. A little more third
Yeah.
wall breaking.
It's also interesting that because Vietnam already was a problem for France long before America came in
Oh yeah.
right after World War II.
Hmm.
And before World War II, before World War One, there already were tensions that they wanted to be independent. And then in the 50s, you had the whole Vietnam War Part One, Indochina, really, the
Yep.
Indochinese War. So to see that, I think it's partly a commentary on what was happening at the time,
Yeah.
what America was doing, but also a pretty hefty commentary on what France had been doing in
Hmm.
what was then Indochina.
Yeah,
So I
that's a great
think it
point.
was more, hey, we did it, we left, and now it's going on. It's just
Hmm.
new masters, old practice.
Then we get your typical Godard dance scene in that little cafe there, and he talks to this guy, and he's like, "Hey, I remember you. I gave you all this money, and you slept with my wife. All right, see you later."
That
Someone
was weird.
even More
That was
emasculated than
funny.
himself.
Oh yeah, it was weird. I liked it. It was funny, but also weird. Just
Yeah.
froze you. You think something's gonna happen? Fist fight, shouting match. I want my money. Oh no. Bye. See ya.
Yeah.
Okay, is that it?
And we finally get to the gangsters. We have the little dude who has this huge walkie-talkie, this huge bottle of Coke, and this huge gun. Then we get that great shot where he's pointing it at the camera. And the famous shot of her with the scissors at the camera right before what dies off screen.
Mm.
I
Yeah, it
think
was interesting.
definitely one of the scenes that really clicked for me is when we get, because how intense that whole I read it was called waterboarding, but just like spraying the water in the face to kind of torture him. That definitely is a contrast
That
moment.
surprised me because I didn't know what already existed back then. To see it in a movie, because nowadays we know what waterboarding is, but to see it in a movie from 1965 was kind of a
Yeah.
surprise.
Probably the funniest film part for me is whenever he's just sitting on this boat eating this enormous thing of cheese with I'm not even sure what kind of spread what that was, but yeah, that was a riot. I almost kind of took that as in kind of American, you know how Americans tend to overdo things with the big gulp or whatever in terms of consumption. So that's kind of what rang a bell for me there.
Yeah, it's also a very quiet scene. It's probably the scene where the least things happen. Even when they're alone with the fox and the parrot when they're talking, still things happen, and it's a real quiet scene. Maybe it's the quiet moment before the storm.
Yeah.
But there isn't much happening. It's a very simple, very straightforward, very non-Godard scene.
And the part that kind of reminded me of a James Bond thing was there's a scene where they jump in a car and they drive off and he throws the hat. Just a very Hollywood ending kind of thing going on. And I think he flashes cinema up on the screen. And then they do almost the exact same thing a moment later, but go off in a boat. So these
Yeah,
strange moments.
yeah, it's one of those things I haven't figured out yet.
And I
Maybe
think
it's
that.
just
Mhm.
a tribute to road movies. And I don't think there
Oh,
were
yeah.
very many road movies back then. So
Okay.
it was a funny scene, though. She just throw. I don't think that was actually planned. Her throwing that hat.
Hmm.
I got the feeling that it was one of the very few things that were completely unplanned. That she just threw it because it looked very spontaneous.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a very final shot esque and yeah,
Yeah.
pretty comical. Um, let's see here. Then we get the whole musical number on the beach, which is just out there. You get all the colors all over again. Now we are finally getting to the end. We
I think that
really
also
took a
is
deep dive here.
connected to the party at the beginning of the film. In the beginning,
Oh,
you
sure.
see the rich, and at the end, you see the simple people, and there's much more warmth
Hmm.
with the second party scene, but there was also connection. Those people are not as um, good, and there's no noble working class environment. You have the English kitchen sink dramas where you see that often the noble working class people. You don't really see this in this one. You see the awful rich people,
Yep.
and later on you see the awful working class people. They both lack an internal world. They're much more external orientated. It's much more possession and less intellectual. And you don't have to be rich to have that. I think that at least that's my interpretation of it.
And then, so we've been hearing about this so-called brother character the whole time, but it turns out that he's actually her real love, and so she takes off with him. He starts to follow along, but he gets stuck at this dock, and he's talking to this fella who's talking about like the music of his life, and it's this total digression. I just that was hilarious. How like he really should be chasing after this other boat, but he's just sitting there bullshitting with this guy, and that's Godard for you.
It really was a film in a film. It's like
Yeah.
almost like he walked from one film into another, and almost Fellini-like.
Yeah,
discussion.
I like that. But he does go after them, ends up on the island. He kills the guy, and it was my impression that he accidentally killed her. Do you think that was intentional or accidental?
That's a
'Cause
difficult one.
he seems very regretful afterwards,
I
which
think the
kind of
character
sparks
was
the whole
accidental.
TNT.
I think the character accidentally kills her, but I think Godard had to tell something again to her about the state of their marriage.
Gotcha.
So it's a double-edged sword. It's the character's innocent, but the director is very guilty.
Oh, nicely said. And then the end's hilarious. How he paints his face in blue. I'm not really. I guess that just kind of falls back into these colors that we keep going to.
I think that was a
Um,
reference to the meaning of the color in the French flag.
okay, yeah.
I
And
can't
then
remember. I think blue stands for freedom.
yeah, if I'm thinking back to the Three Colors trilogy, right? And then I think white is huh. I think red's
Uh,
fraternity. I'm not sure what white was.
Red was fraternity, and let's see. Yeah, red is brotherhood. I think white stood for freedom.
Freedom. Okay, that makes
I
sense.
think it was. Also, interesting enough, when you're on the boat, you see everywhere you see French flags, except on the boat
Mm-hmm.
they're sitting on. It's a Dutch flag. So that was
Oh.
odd. It was the only Dutch flag of all the boats. It's the only one with a Dutch flag.
Hmm.
So I still have no. Is it a coincidence or is that on purpose? But knowing Godard, he doesn't really do accidents. So that was an odd one.
Yeah, it cracked me up. So, yeah, he paints his face blue, has this enormous strand of yellow dynamite, this enormous strand of red dynamite. And it's hilarious to see him try to wrap this around his head and tie it off. And then he lights a bunch of matches and about to blow,
Yes,
but then he's like, oh, I don't want to do boom. And
it's
that's the
too.
end.
It's a fun ending. It really
It's
works too.
very
So really, the
hilarious.
only way he could go because I don't see him walking off alone in the sunset.
He calls the authorities. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And then the camera slowly pans out to the middle of the sea to end it. It's it's something else. Cinema.
Yeah,
I'm really
yeah,
glad I started to wrap my head around what it is. Gosh, I saw all. I'm kind of stuck at a 4 rating, but I think it's better than that. But oh gosh, I still have to think about it. What are your
I
final
gave it a
thoughts and
four
your
and a half.
rating? Hmm.
I gave it a 4.5 because it's very good and it's close to perfection. There are
Nice.
certain things that certain things I really didn't like. I think Godard was working out issues with his wife,
Yeah.
and it seeped into the film, which made it less strong than it could have been. If that wasn't the case, I probably would have given it 5 stars because I really, really like this film. I think
Nice.
it's probably his best film, together with Breathless.
Yeah, I'll have to watch Contempt again, but yeah, it's between right now. It's between this and Contempt for my favorite Godard.
Mm.
Weekend's pretty wild too. Definitely recommend checking that
I
out at
still
some
have,
point.
yeah, I need to see it. I have a very long list of movies that I want to buy.
Yeah.
And I have a girlfriend who says, well, maybe not a good idea right now.
Yeah, I can relate there. Well, thanks so much for joining me on the show and staying up extra late. We're quite the time difference between us, so I appreciate you staying up a little late to talk movies with me.
I once said to my girlfriend, she asked me, I can wake you up for what in the middle of the night? Well, this is one of those things you can wake me up for. A
Okay,
conversation about film.
awesome. How do people follow you, ask you questions or the like?
Follow me on, I'm on Letterboxd,
Hmm.
Max Hoffman. If I write a review, which does not happen very often, leave a comment and I will react to you. And if I see
Awesome.
a review by you or someone else and I like it, I will react to that.
Yeah, it's
I'm not the
always
most accessible man, but if you try, I will react.
well said, well said. Well, please follow the Average Joe's Movie Club cast on YouTube and look for my reviews on Letterboxd. And thanks again so much, Max. It's been a wonderful conversation. Have a great day, everyone, and keep watching Great movies.
So much out there.